Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tahirin. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, you are all well. Ramadan Kareem. I hope that these remaining days of this holy month are fruitful and beneficial to your spiritual health. Welcome to our first episode on child upbringing in the 21st century, which is organized by the Virtual Safe Space. VSS is a support system created by AFTAB, which is the Tabligh wing of the Africa Federation, and is geared towards creating a safe space for all those who need help in their community with regards to depression, raising children, family life. And today's episode is going to be about child upbringing. By the way, I'd just like to add a very brief disclaimer. As a father and as a student of the Hawza who has studied this topic, I would like to mention that, or I would like to add, that parenting for anyone, for any parent, for any father, any mother, is an extremely challenging task. It's not an easy road, regardless of whether one employs Islamic methods, Islamic teachings, Islamic principles or not. As parents in the 21st century, we're going to have to make sacrifices. And while this is not easy, it does not excuse us from this responsibility. For these 30 minutes, I'm just going to briefly list out the challenges that we as young parents in 2023 face when it comes to child upbringing. Inshallah, once we finish that, in the coming episodes, we will speak further on how to raise, or the principles with regards to raising good, strong Muslim children in this day and age. Now, the first challenge that we face, brothers and sisters, with regards to child upbringing is the fact that there is a lack of awareness. A lack of awareness with regards to child upbringing. How do we do it? What is the goal behind raising children? Is it just something that we do because we want to? Or is it something that we have a duty to do with regards to our religion? The second challenge that we face is that we have too much faith in foreign and un-Islamic, non-Islamic methods and ideas on child upbringing. That is, these systems do not take into account the Islamic worldview. It does not take into consideration, for example, that we want to raise children who will serve Allah and who will serve the Imam of our time, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. The third challenge that we face is that we have a lack of English resources, or resources in the English language about how to raise good Muslim children. We have many in Farsi and we have a decent amount in Arabic, but this is a relatively new study with regards to in terms of Islam and Islamic studies, and it's something that more work needs to be done on, especially in the English-speaking world, or in the English-speaking Muslim world rather. The next challenge, and possibly the most difficult challenge, is the fact that the media today is the one that primarily seeks to raise our children. We as parents don't have the control or the supervision that we used to in the past. Today, there are other competitors, such as, for example, a smartphone, a tablet, the TV. Children watch more cartoons, They spend more time in front of a television. They spend more time playing on their iPads. And as a result, because we do not necessarily take the time to monitor what it is they're clicking and what it is they're watching and what it is they're playing, naturally, there are going to be some messages sent that we're not aware of. Even if, for example, we give a game to our child, the ads come up every few minutes, and these ads often spread messages that are completely against our beliefs. The next challenge is the fact that like social media, like TVs, like tablets, like phones, there are other competitors at play, and they've become more powerful. For example, school. Teachers are extremely important when it comes to the messages that are sent to our kids. The teacher's beliefs are not taken into consideration. The teacher's methods are not necessarily taken into consideration. And we're not always aware of those conversations that take place during break times. Another competitor, for instance, is friends. Friends also have their own influences. Even if you and I, for example, try to raise good Muslim kids, if we are conscious parents, in the end, our child has to make friends in order to be effectively socialized in whatever world they're living in. So, friends are obviously raised by parents with different beliefs. They're not necessarily Muslims, or if they are Muslims, their parents are not necessarily religious, or they have certain perspectives with regards to Islam that might not necessarily be in line with true, correct Islamic teachings. Another challenge that we face is that we don't pay enough attention to raising our kids. This is a flaw on our side. We need to pay more attention with regards to how we raise our kids. Are the methods that we employ based on, for example, our whims or our experiences? Sometimes experiences are not necessarily the messages that we take from them are not always correct, right? Pause. As a result of our lack of attention towards raising our children or interacting with our children, they find other places where they find that attention, where they find that love, where they find that care. And if we as parents do not give the necessary attention, love, care, concern for our kids, if we do not show them, then naturally they're going to find it somewhere else. The next challenge that we face is lack of energy. Now this could be for many other reasons, for many different reasons. For example, the way things are in the 21st century is that people work a lot. People work hard. Sometimes parents who are new parents or new families, they don't necessarily have the means to go to and from work in a car. They don't necessarily have the money to buy a car. They take public transport, and the commute is often an hour to an hour and a half. And by the time we get home, it might be 8 or 9 p.m. and we're extremely tired. And even though we want to play with our children, even though we want to spend time with them, even though we want to laugh and draw and color with them, we just don't have the energy. This is different from a lack of attention, but they're definitely related. Because we don't have energy, we cannot always pay attention. The next challenge is that today we've experienced many changes in the environment. For example, houses today are smaller. They're not as spacious. More people are living in apartments. As a result, children are confined in small spaces. If they're lucky, they might have a balcony, but in the end, they cannot always run around as much as they want. Not everyone has a backyard. Not everyone has an open space. For example, when I was a child, we had a nice open space outside our house, and we used to play football and we used to play cricket, or some people would call it soccer. It's actually called football. But you see what I'm getting at. That lack of open space, that lack of interaction with nature, that lack of space and ability to interact with the outside world definitely affects how we raise our kids and how they are brought up and who they become when they grow up. Another aspect is that children are now not always raised by their mothers, or the mother does not take as important a role as she used to. There's been a change in family structure, for example. Women are now working, right? And because of the economic pressures that exist today in many countries, especially in the West, in Canada, in the United States, in the UK, women have to work. If they don't work, they cannot pay the rent. And what happens? That connection between mother and child just goes down the drain. In Islam, we believe that the mother has a very, very special and extremely important role when it comes to inculcating values, Islamic values, into kids. In Islam, for example, we have a hadith that says that first you must love your mother, then your mother, then your mother, then your father, right? That connection is strongly emphasized in our religion. Social roles are very, very clearly defined. Fathers, men, are the ones who are responsible for providing for the family. They're the ones who go out. They're the ones who go earn. They're the ones who go defend the house. And mothers are the ones who raise their kids. Obviously, fathers also have an extremely important role when it comes to raising those children. A father must take an active role in spending time with kids. Just because he works all the time, or just because he's outside of the house most of the time, does not mean, or it does not excuse him rather, for when it comes to playing with his kids. When he comes home, he should play with his kids. When he comes home, he should help with the house, right? Imam Ali, for example, when Bibi Fatima was at home, in the initial years of Islam, Imam Ali alayhi salam was often outside the house. Islam was in a very vulnerable position, and that meant there were a lot of enemies who were trying to eliminate the religion completely. So Imam Ali was often outside fighting on the battlefield. Why? While Lady Fatima Zahra alayha salam was at home taking care of Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Bibi Zainab, and Kulthum salamullah alayhim. And because of this division in roles, because of these clearly defined boundaries, Bibi Fatima, or Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima salamullah alayhima, were able to raise children who became defenders of the religion after them. So the next challenge that we face, or the next change in environment, is the fact that there is now economic competition. I had mentioned this earlier, but just to repeat, there are economic pressures that exist today. One cannot always own a house or cannot always buy a house. We have to pay a mortgage. Moms and dads have to get a job, right? The bills that we have to pay are now more expensive. For example, in the United Kingdom today, energy bills are rising extremely fast, right? And that means the income of a family has to increase. That means moms and dads have to work. That means more children have to spend time in daycare, or young children, toddlers, have to spend time in daycare. And what ends up happening is, instead of the mom and dad, who are supposed to be the ones playing with the child, changing their diapers, it turns out to be someone who we don't know. Because of economic pressures, what ends up happening is that the state often involves itself when it comes to raising kids. State-sponsored daycares, for example, in Scandinavian countries, I believe in Sweden and Denmark and Norway. So that's a very brief outline of the factors that we need to consider and the challenges that we need to face when it comes to raising good, strong Muslim children. All of them, they might sound a little bit overwhelming, but all of these things have solutions. And sometimes it involves making sacrifices. But before we delve more deeply into those responsibilities that we need to take, we need to first speak about the purpose of human creation. This is an extremely important concept that we need to discuss, and inshallah we will do that in the next episode. If you have any suggestions or topics that you would like to speak about, or you would like us to discuss in more detail, please don't hesitate to contact us. We are here to help Muslims and to help fellow believers in raising good kids and building strong families, because the family, brothers and sisters, is one of the most important, if not the most important, pillar of Islam or Islamic social life. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.